We have two big stories right now. We have Steven Crowder getting a hard strike and a suspension, as well as Joe Rogan taking on Sanjay Gupta of CNN and calling him out for CNN's lies. I definitely want to go over Sanjay Gupta's essay he wrote about why he did it, because, of course, they don't accept accountability for being liars. In fact, Sanjay Gupta, after talking with Joe Rogan about how CNN lied, goes on with the host who lied, Aaron Burnett. But the big story to get started, and these are related stories in my opinion, and I'll explain why. Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder, has received a hard strike over a show they did. YouTube has claimed that they were harassing the transgender community by doing it. And the concern here is that there is a related story to what Steven Crowder had done that happened in Loudoun County with a student who was assaulted in a bathroom, and it's led to a major scandal. Now, I wanted to make sure you guys knew what was going on with Crowder's suspension. So, mostly because I know you guys may be wondering why he's not on YouTube right now. This is, once again, YouTube, I think, is getting dangerously close. They want to remove Crowder. Based on the show he did, special guest Alex Jones, Joe Rogan triggers leftists again. Many people have said that they didn't find it to be outwardly egregious. He was talking about very specific news stories, but YouTube says talking about instances where particular protected groups are implicated in crimes is against the rules. So this is serious stuff. But what I wanted to point out first is you can always go to louderwithcrowder.com. You can go to their website, louderwithcrowder.com. And you can join the Mug Club, which is Steven Crowder's membership program, I believe, basically. And they are doing their show live over there right now. We have to actively oppose hard censorship. And one of the best ways to do it is to make sure that, as of right now, as many people have questioned, Tim, why do you remain on YouTube if they're censoring people? Well, if I wasn't here to let you know that Steven Crowder's show is live over at louderwithcrowder.com, many people may just be left confused, wondering what happened. And it happens. Sometimes we'll take a night off due to a technical difficulty, or maybe a guest had some issue, or maybe we're just, I've got to do something happens that, makes me unable to do the show. People on YouTube don't understand. We'll post on the website. We'll even post on the community tab. I'll tweet it out and people still won't see it. So at the very least, you guys know where you can find his show, and I seriously do hope that you guys are supporting Mug Club. I certainly hope you support timcast.com, our website, for the exact same reason. But I will tell you this. Look, first and foremost, I didn't watch the segment he did, but a comedy show is a comedy show, and they do very serious stuff, and it's black comedy often, dark stuff, like Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle did a Netflix comedy special where he made, the things he said are Instaban material. But that's acceptable Netflix mainstream content. Why the line? Why not Steven Crowder? Why is he not allowed to make the same jokes? Netflix says they're not taking down Dave Chappelle. He's allowed to do it. Okay. There have been other very famous mainstream comedians who have done similar segments. So I will say this. Try to support everybody to the best of your abilities. And I will if when this stuff happens, I'll absolutely shout it up. But here's where I think it's really important. Over here on the right side of the Louder with Crowder website, you can see Joe Rogan embarrasses Sanjay Gupta over CNN's horse dewormer lies. You see, this is the big story I wanted to talk about today. Joe Rogan doing one of the most amazing and profound things. And the reason why, first and foremost, I've got to mention Steven Crowder and make sure you guys know where you can find his content to make sure that, once again, make sure the censorship is less effective, and we're actively resisting and opposing it by making sure you guys know where to go and find it. But I do think the Joe Rogan Sanjay Gupta episode actually does have an interesting overlap, principally with what happened with Crowder. Sanjay Gupta is acting like Joe Rogan is Alex Jones, okay? And to that matter, they're acting like he's the caricature of Alex Jones, because Alex certainly does a character of himself and has certainly said crazy things, but he often is right. And a lot of people don't want to accept that, but we had him on the show. We fact-checked him. Some of the stuff he says is right. A lot of it, in fact. Now, the joke is that he's always right. Alex Jones says some really kooky things, but it turns out George Washington did write a letter condemning the Illuminati. I never thought I would experience something like that. But this is why it's so important to talk about Crowder's strike as we segue into the story with Sanjay Gupta and Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan sits down with the medical guy from CNN and says, your network lied. They claimed Joe Rogan was taking horse dewormer. This is Aaron Burnett. I've got the screenshots. I tweeted about this. They lied. Sanjay Gupta in the hot seat. And they're acting as though they got Joe Rogan by presenting him with information to maybe convince some of his listeners. And I'm like, what world do these people live in? Joe Rogan is not some crackpot conspiracy theorist. Now, Joe Rogan has certainly in the past, had crazy conspiracy shows, but I think it's mostly in a fun exploration. I mean, like when I jokingly said that the world, in order to enter the Galactic Federation, we must unify under a one world government. Joe immediately goes, I don't think there's a Galactic Federation. Joe, it was a joke. Come on, you're a comedian. I guess my joke was bad. I'll accept that. I'm not a comedian. The point is, Joe's a regular guy. That's why his show's so popular. It's regular people. CNN acts like he's his weird, thing. And that's what we have right now in the media. You have an elite class that exists in their own weird world. How many of you caught the Aussie media story? What's that? You're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, because these people play inside baseball. The news, these journalists come out and they're like, hey, everybody, Aussie media. And regular people are like, I'm working in a steel mill trying to make sure I can feed my kids, and I have no idea what you're talking about. Steven Crowder getting removed is another one of these major independent channels. And not only that, one of the few channels not on the left. And I say not on the left because it's overwhelmingly leftist content on YouTube, as much as they would try and lie and claim it's not. They'll also claim I'm right wing because anything that's not left wing is far right. And that's how they try and puff up the numbers of right wing content, claiming there's more right wingers. We need independent media. We can't allow the censorship. We have to actively oppose it, speak out against it. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll say it again. Here I am on YouTube, the platform that has just suspended Crowder, telling you where you can find him so that the censorship is actively less effective. You see how that works? It's not perfect. I know that Steven Crowder doesn't want to get banned from YouTube because it's a massive platform. It's a major way to reach people. And this is a major battleground in the culture war. So we should be active in trying to maintain our positions. But if you're trying to get out key information that YouTube is restricting, that's why Crowder's got Mug Club. That's why we have timcast.com. We don't have a name for you. Be a member at timcast.com to support our work because we could look. I'll tell you this. The moment they go after Crowder and they get him off the platform, we're next. I don't know if we're literally next, but the cliffs are eroding. We have to hold the line. I know that making sure Crowder has the ability to do his job means that we are safer as well. And I also think that Crowder has a right to do comedy bits the same as Dave Chappelle or any other comedian would do that YouTube is fine with. Check this out. Let's talk about CNN because I really got to show you what Gupta said. It is laughably insane. Gupta actually wrote on CNN that he feared Joe Rogan would attack him. I'm not kidding. These people are nuts. From louderwithcrowder.com. Anti-vax misinformation making horse medicine taking, according to CNN, Joe Rogan sat down with CNN's medical dude, Sanjay Gupta. It was a 3-hour conversation about the Fauci ouchie and people being hesitant towards it. This is excellent writing, by the way, from Brodegan on Louder with Crowder. Hop on Twitter and you can find tons of clips of Gupta, the medical expert, being rendered speechless by simple questions. Gupta's not used to that on CNN, where the only dialogue has to be approved by Joe Biden and or the CDC first. Rogan calling Gupta out for CNN lies about Rogan is more interesting. Flashback. Rogan caught the Rona. His doctor prescribed him a medication that is prescribed to human beings. CNN reported over and over again that Rogan took horse dewormer, something that is prescribed to by veterinarians. Rogan doesn't go to a vet. He goes to a people doctor. Rogan put Gupta on blast with a simple question. Why is your alleged news network lying about me? And then Gupta was like, oh, no, we didn't. Here's the quote. Does it bother you that the news network you work for outright lied about me taking horse dewormer? Gupta says they shouldn't have said that. Why'd they say that? I don't know. You didn't ask? You're the medical guy there. That, absolutely. You're the medical guy there. Sanjay Gupta is the medical guy at CNN. And he went on with Aaron Burnett. Did he call her out and say, hey, you lied about Joe Rogan? Take a look at this. We have this from The Wrap, September 2nd. CNN medical analyst Dr. Jonathan Reiner debunked Joe Rogan's crazy jumble of nonsense COVID treatments on Wednesday night. it was prescribed to him by a doctor. You know, this is why I keep telling people, talk to a doctor. They're like, Tim, doctors are dumb. That's not an answer. That's not an excuse to not go to a doctor. Joe Rogan went to a doctor. He got a medical treatment. Do you disagree with Joe Rogan? I don't know. I don't think Joe Rogan. It's up to the doctor, not me. I'm not a doctor. Don't get medical advice from me. Take your questions to people who know better. And if you're really unhappy, fine, go to Joe Rogan's doctor. If you like that, I mean, this is the crazy thing. Doctors are not a monolith. You know? Anyway, I said, weird. This doctor on CNN said Joe Rogan's medical treatment was completely wrong, yet somehow Joe got better and is now free of COVID. It's almost like CNN are a bunch of lying pieces of... I don't know anything about... I know Joe got monoclonal antibodies, and I am under... I think that was actually what helped him. This is an EUA approved. It's the Regeneron treatment. We also have this. Look at the screenshot. There's old Erin Burnett lying her face off. Joe Rogan says he has COVID, taking livestock drug despite warnings. I wrote, hey, CNN, pretty sure Joe never said he was taking a livestock drug. Joe Rogan, please sue them. I don't know if Joe will actually sue CNN. Well, he did have on Sanjay Gupta, which is interesting. And let's get into it. So take a look at this. Gupta tries to convince Rogan to get vaccinated. See what happens. CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, explains why he went one-on-one for over 3 hours with Joe Rogan on his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. Oh, hey, look, it's Erin Burnett, the lady who was lying in the first place. Amazing. I think I understand what is wrong with the mainstream media. You are going to be, I think your minds will be blown by this article from Sanjay Gupta that just dropped. Wait until you hear what he says. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, why Joe Rogan and I sat down and talked for more than 3 hours. Gupta writes, in today's highly segmented media world, most of the people who watch and listen to me every day on CNN have already received and accepted the message about the utility of vaccines, the importance of masks, and how we can all work together to put an end to this pandemic. So I realized that if I was serious about trying to communicate public health, I needed to go to a less comfortable place. I needed to go to the Lion's Den and accept an invitation to sit down with Joe Rogan for more than 3 hours. Okay, first let me just say this. Probably one of the most comfortable places to have a conversation I've ever been in is Joe Rogan's studio. To like literally, for one, the amenities. It's very comfortable. He has coffee and energy drinks. Now, what I mean by comfortable is in the mental sense. It's great. It's comfortable. I will say Joe's chairs hurt my back every time. I don't know about his new studio in Texas, but the chairs he had before, I'd always be like, man, sitting there, it's like, oh, it's hurting my back. So I don't know about completely comfortable. But to have a long conversation, take a look at this. Gupta says, I don't think I've ever had a conversation that long with anyone. Seriously, think about that. What? That blew my mind. That is crazy to me. Sanjay Gupta has never had a conversation with someone for 3 hours. That's shocking to me. Look, I mean, maybe here's a blinder for me. I assumed people talked. When I was growing up, I had multi-hour long conversations with all of my friends. We'd sit around just talking for like 5-6 hours. I mean, granted, they'd be rocking a ganja and I'd be playing Knights of the Old Republic, but we would sit there all night talking about all of these crazy things. Never had a conversation with someone for more than 3 hours. Maybe that's why these people live in this weird bubble world where the TV is the arbiter of truth and morality, because that's what they get their information from. They don't actually talk to other human beings. I mean, look, I don't know. Why don't you guys comment below and let me know, have you ever had a conversation with someone longer than 3 hours? Am I the outlier here? Because I'll tell you this, we do it every night, Monday through Friday. And to me, it's like, I understand they're long conversations. So we go 2 hours on Timcast IRL plus a half an hour or so for the member segment, but we're talking an hour before and basically a half an hour after. So we're going from like 7 to 11 p.m. where we're talking nonstop. Sanjay Gupta's never had a conversation. To me, it's easy to do the show. I'm not kidding. When I'm 18, I'm sitting on my friend's couch and we got Xbox playing and we're talking about time and space and quantum physics. We're talking about politics and we just sit there all day and be like, man, it's crazy. And then we like this. So here's what we do. We'd wake up, play video games, eat some Wendy's, you know, like when Wendy's would open like 11 or whatever, go skateboarding, come back, play video games and just talk. all night about crazy stuff. Maybe for them it was the weed. I don't know. People would be like, I would talk about all this crazy stuff and they'd think that I was smoking. I don't smoke at all. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do anything. I don't even have piercings or tattoos. But this to me was mind blowing. Now let me read you this part. I hope you're ready. Many friends cautioned me against accepting Joe's invitation. Quote, there is little room for reasonable conversations anymore, one person told me. He is a brawler and doesn't play fair. What? These people are nuts. Another warned, in fact, when I told Joe early in the podcast, he doesn't play fair, another warned. In fact, when I told Joe early in the podcast that I didn't agree with his apparent views on vaccines against COVID, ivermectin, and many things in between, part of me thought the MMA former Taekwondo champion might hurtle himself across the table and throttle my neck. But instead, he smiled and off we went. What? Absolutely crackpot insanity. Why would anyone think Joe Rogan, an extremely successful, famous comedian, the most famous podcaster, would attack anybody? It's nuts. Remember Cenk Uygur was like, if I fought Joe Rogan, I'd end him. He's a black belt in Taekwondo. He's a champion. These people are crazy, man. Look, it's no surprise to me that you get the narrative you get out of CNN when someone's like, Joe Rogan, part of me thought he'd jump over the table and throttle my neck. Wow. It's just so insane, isn't it? Now you know why they want to ban all guns. Because they see a guy walking with a gun and they scream and they run and jump in the bushes. Where we're at, you walk down the street and you see people with guns. I saw a guy with a crossbow the other day and I was like, cool. You know why I'm not worried about the man with the crossbow firing his crossbow at me? Because if people really wanted to hurt me, they could use a car, and they drive them all of the time. In fact, I got a motorcycle, and I'm actually more worried about accidentally being hit on the motorcycle than I am about a guy who's walking around with a gun or a crossbow. Imagine if people were like, at any moment, I thought the man might start firing wildly at me. If people did that, I mean, it's extremely rare. Sometimes people go nuts. But if that were the case, that random people, you were so worried, you're in New York City and you jaywalk all the time. So Sanjay Gupta, I guarantee you jaywalk. You're not scared a car will hit you? These giant hunks of steel. Here's a headline. Joe Rogan agreed to get vaccinated. See, that's a lie. That's the manipulation. Here's what they said. Let me see if they mentioned that he nearly got vaccinated. Here we go. What he said next surprised me. So it turns out that Joe Rogan nearly got vaccinated. That was a headline. It was a few months ago when he was in Vegas. He had an appointment scheduled, but had logistical hurdles and couldn't make it. He offered up the story as proof he's not necessarily anti-vaccine, even if he does consistently raise issues questioning their legitimacy. It's this sort of back and forth that makes it hard to pin Joe Rogan down, both in martial arts and a podcast interview. Ha ha ha. For example, even as he sometimes railed against masks, the Joe Rogan Experience masks emblazoned with his logo available for sale on his website are available for sale. I even bought one ahead of time and gave it to him as a gift. He looked surprised. Incidentally, they're made in China. He looked surprised because he's probably thinking, why are you giving me my own product? This is the crazy thing about CNN. And this is how this is the best example, I think, of them being a cult. Let me explain. As I often say, there are Trump cultists, but they're fringe. They have no institutional authority. And there's the flat earth people too. And it's like, so there's a lot of Trump supporters that are zealots that believe like whatever, they hear from the Trump side, but they're not institutionally powerful and they're few and far between. Sanjay Gupta is on CNN and he genuinely thinks that Joe Rogan is like this crackpot flat earther conspiracy theorist who doesn't believe in science because they're in a cult. If you actually listen to Joe, you know that he's fairly nuanced and moderate. And if you, a lot of people found me from me having been on Joe Rogan. I think I'm actually more establishment than Joe Rogan is on a lot of these issues. And what I mean by that is, Joe talks about myocarditis in young people. Sanjay Gupta says the risk of myocarditis from COVID is actually higher than the risk from the vaccine. And that's something lost in translation, lost in the conversation. And then Joe also mentions, what was the other part? I don't know, you get the point. That there's some things, transmissibility. Joe says that people who get vaccinated can transmit at the same rate, But the context missing there is, yes, but people who get vaccinated are much less likely to get COVID in the first place. There are studies out of Israel talking about waning efficacy. We're hearing about booster shots for the immunocompromised. I'm not a medical doctor or the kind of scientist, I should say, because to be fair, there's a kind of like rogue street scientist thing with hackerspaces, and we've certainly done our share of fun, crazy experiments. I built a remote control can of green tea, and the hacker community insisted, Tim, you're a scientist. No, I'm not a lab scientist. I don't do research on this stuff. I can't tell you. That's why I say talk to a doctor. But they genuinely think that Joe Rogan is like masks are wrong and shouldn't be used, and vaccines are evil, and when he's not. He's literally not. You know, my stance is like, mask mandates? I don't think Ron DeSantis has a right to ban mask mandates. I really don't. I'm not a fan of making kids mask up. I think it's detrimental to their psychological development. Masks are substantially different from irreversible medical procedures, though. So I certainly think people should have a right to choose if they wear the mask or not. And if you don't want to wear the mask, you shouldn't have to. And if you don't want to go to a restaurant where people don't wear masks, don't go. The vaccine mandates are very different. If I go to a store, I went to Micro Center a couple of weeks ago, we had to buy supplies, and they're like, you have to wear a mask. I was like, whatever. I mean, it's literally whatever to me. It's like a piece of cloth on my face. I really don't care for the 20 minutes I'm in that building. Vaccine mandates in New York, for instance, are like, you must undergo an irreversible medical procedure. That's between you and your doctor. That's substantially different. So Joe Rogan selling masks, clearly Joe doesn't oppose masks, but these people live in that crazy, crazy world. They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal. And then here's what you need to understand about CNN. These 4 words are helping spread vaccine misinformation. Look at the face of one of the most despicable people on TV. Brian Stelter, you are awful. I think you are evil. I genuinely believe this. Here's the story. 4 little words, do your own research, are hurting the U.S. pandemic response. CNN's chief media correspondent Brian Stelter said on Reliable Sources Sunday. Brian Stelter consistently tells people not to learn because he's evil. He wants to keep you in the dark. He is a bad person. Would it surprise you if I told you that him and I are like the same age? Yeah. Well, I guess evil ages a person. He's a nasty dude. And I've met him before. We've talked. He's interviewed me. But this guy genuinely wants you not to be informed. I will tell you this. You should read CNN. You should understand why they think the things they do so you can better understand what they say and why they say it. You should also listen to Joe Rogan. And I don't mean like believe Joe Rogan. I say hear what he has to say so you can understand him as well. I think you should do your own research. You should look at the scientific studies. And then you should ask a medical professional who is an expert who went to school and got a degree. And if you are unsure, you get a second opinion. This is a normal thing people do. Anyone telling you not to do your own research is trying to lie to you. This is how cults work. This is why I say it is a cult. Cults try to restrict your ability to get information from the outside world. It's how they keep you in the cult. So I hope, I don't know, be warned, I guess. But I'll throw it back to Crowder. Again, if you're wondering where he's at, louderwithcrowder.com. You guys can join the Mug Club to support them because we have to actively resist all forms of censorship. And I hope for the best for Steven Crowder. I may not agree with his bits or his comments or whatever. It's irrelevant and immaterial to the issue of censorship. He's allowed to have the conversations he wants to have. If people want to oppose them, they can have that debate like Sanjay Gupta did with Joe Rogan. Censorship's we got to push back on that stuff. So check them out. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I'll see you all then.